If I could have your attention, I'll call to order this Stevens Plantation Improvement Project DSD Governing Board meeting to order this November the 21st here at City Hall. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Blackwell.
Here.
Vice Chair Matheny.
Here.
Member Cooper.
I'm here.
Member Askew.
Here.
Member Trace.
Here.
Would you read the first item and only item?
Discussion and possible action regarding the Stevens North letters of intent.
I believe, first of all, we have you have anything to share?
No, Mayor. I just asked David to come up and start the
Yes,
presentation.
AVEX, we'll recognize you first if you'd like to come up.
From David Calcanis.
David Calcanis.
Do what now?
We're going to hear from David Calcanis.
Okay. David Calcanis.
Good evening, board members. David Calcanis. I work for Colliers International. We're representing Stevens North disposition. I guess tonight we're here to review the two remaining offers from Equity Investments and Avex Homes. You guys, if you have any questions from the summary that I provided to you guys from Veronica, please ask. If not, we can bring up the bidders to discuss their offer, and if you can ask them directly any questions.
That it?
That's it. Unless you want me to review the offer, but I think
No,
you guys
that's-
know what it is.
I think we have the offer before us. Are there any questions from council at this point?
No.
Mr. Meisner, would you like to, you've requested to speak?
Council members, I'm David Meisner, 3410 Polly's Loop North, St. Cloud, Florida, Stevens Plantation. I agree with the council. Get rid of that property. I would like to see DSD totally out of the property business for the next couple of years. I think it's a good step forward on it. I've examined both proposals, and I think they're both viable. And I do have some concerns, and I'll let the sheriff discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Bob Hansel, 1032 Tony Circle, St. Cloud, Florida. I am the chairman of your appointed Public Safety Task Force Committee, and we meet on a regular basis. And our mission is to try to get public input, especially from your appointed representatives, of the needs of public safety with our tremendous growth here in the city, and what we can do and what avenues we can look at that we can bring forward to the council to see if you could better improve the situation that public safety faces right now. What we have done, so far as we've went over the police department, the fire department, finance, planning, and last night at our meeting with finance, this agenda item came up, and we discussed it thoroughly about the needs for a public safety complex. You know, at one time where this property in question tonight is located at is going to be the public safety complex is going to be built. We determined that looking at the two proposals, that the one that had a portion of land still remaining with the city is your best option. We're not getting into nuts and bolts of pricing or money or any other deals. We're just looking at when you sell dirt and you lose dirt and we have to build something in the future, we have to go back and buy more dirt. So what we, as a committee as a whole, are suggesting that you look at the both proposals, and whichever one you feel is fine for the fiscal portion of it, but for the real estate portion of it, the land portion of it, we go with the proposal that has the exchange of land also. So, any questions of me?
Any questions?
Was that all of you unanimous?
Yes, it was a consensus of the board, of the committee. Yes, sir.
100%. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Mayor, I have my line. Sorry, Keith.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Councilmember Trace.
So do we feel that that is the best location for the public safety complex? then?
The chief in our meetings has said that is the prime location they have based on the fact that we had the land there. So if, like I said, it's, when you remove land from the availability to build, then we have to go out and seek more land. Now, was there a better place? Maybe, but it's always been in the planning process that that's where the location was going to be. And that met with the chief of police's vision also.
Okay, because when I was, actually, Fire Chief and I were just talking about this on fire station locations of, sometimes the property you own might not be the best property, and if you put something on that locationally, it might not make sense. This is more of a fire thing based on response time, and just because you own the dirt now doesn't mean it's the best location. If you can sell it for market rate and buy something else for market rate, then it's kind of a wash.
If you're fortunate enough to find that in future price of land.
Yeah, because to me, further east on Nolte would be the kind of the center nucleus of the city, right? Or, I mean, just.
Yeah, but you've got to remember that a public safety complex is not necessarily an operational complex like a fire department when you have to locate in those areas of need because of the different type of response to different situations, so.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crumpler, would you like to speak to the AVEX offer?
Good evening, Hugh Crumpler, Michigan Avenue, St. Cloud, Florida. I would like to speak in favor of, I guess it's AVEX that offers us the opportunity to keep the property that we've already purchased for the public safety complex. I think it's a very good location from what I gather, and I do think it would cost us more money to get property somewhere else. Secondly, we've had a design from the that we paid for by the architectural firm, which is quite compelling, and that was done for that particular site. So if we have to go to a different site, that would cost us even more money. And it's a very, in my opinion, it's a very thorough, good job that they've done in the architectural needs that were identified and designed for. I also want to say that public safety is something that everybody ran on for and recognizes that is it really a top priority for our community. And we are behind in getting that particular complex going. However we phase it or work it, it's not material tonight. What is material is deciding that we can salvage and save the opportunity that we have by keeping the property that we've already paid for. And I do think it's a good location, and we should let the chief speak to that. But I'm very much in favor of the AVEX people because they're allowing us the opportunity to keep that property and or maybe do a partnership for a building. But in any case, I think you've got two offers, and one of them allows us to keep the property and the other one doesn't. So that's the way I look at it. Plus, I do believe that offers more money, if I'm not mistaken. It's a higher offer. So why would we want to get less money for less land, more land, or less of our land? Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to the AVEX offer? If not, I'll recognize Equity, if you'd like to speak.
We've got an exhibit that we'd like to show. I've got hard copies for.
They can put them up on the screen, would be great.
We can hand them out. Someone's home.
Someone's at your door.
Does he have a mic where he can talk?
Yes.
We'll get back, we'll put it
Go
up there
back
and
to
get
the
back
podium.
mic.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mike Liquori, Liquuri, on behalf of Equity and Gentry. Over the past several years, Equity and Gentry has heard the following themes consistently from this board regarding the property. You wanted an early closing. You wanted a high-quality mixed-use community, one that was not overloaded with residential, and one that was truly integrated commercial in a mixed-use plan. And with the offering now including both the DSD and the city land, there was a clear interest that the city wanted to at least be made whole for the $1.75 million that they had spent on their parcels. The comparison exhibit in your packet did not have comparable units from our original proposal, so I wanted to include that tonight. To make it easier to visualize, we broke the land use categories into 5 basic areas: commercial, multifamily, residential, parks, and ponds. You'll see the AVEX total acreage remains the same at 94.9, and equity increases to 92.6, and I'd like to give you a quick rundown. On the commercial side, at 11.42 acres, we're offering approximately 3 times the acreage for commercial, and we believe an achievable square foot range is 60,000 to 125,000 square feet. Our commercial is focused into a true neighborhood center, a commercial area, not separated into 2 smaller, disjointed road frontage areas on a site plan. The key takeaway is we listened to your desire for a truly integrated neighborhood commercial center, and the city could look forward to additional commercial tax base in the years to come from the additional square footage that's in our offer. On the multifamily side, we're offering 15 acres of multifamily for approximately 275 units. Our vision is for market rate apartments that we believe will fit in St. Cloud. Attempting to put 400 apartments on 13 acres of land means you're either building higher buildings, smaller units, or a combination of both, which we don't believe yields a higher quality. We listen to the board and believe in your desire for a higher quality neighborhood. On residential, during our last meeting, we committed to 50 to 100 alley-loaded single-family units and 150 to 175 front-loaded single-family units. That's a total of 200 to 275 units in this project. That's a stark contrast to the 550 proposed units in the other offer. To achieve that density requires significantly smaller units, additional back-to-back units, or again, a combination of both. Again, we listen to your desire for a high-quality mixed-use neighborhood. On the park side, the previous exhibit showed 2.3 miles of passageways for us, but it did not provide the total acreage. These trails are part of our park system and provide passive enjoyment of the community, in addition to linking the entire community internally between the neighborhood residential and the neighborhood commercial, as well as externally providing safe transit for future students to St. Cloud Elementary along the trails and the other neighboring communities in the area. Those trails make up an additional 5.5 acres of parks. When added to our 3.5 acre linear park and our 3/4 of an acre central plaza in the neighborhood center, that yields approximately 10 acres of parks, not including open spaces around our ponds and wetlands. The key takeaway is we listen to you and believe in developing a higher quality neighborhood. Then we come to ponds. We provided for 18.5 acres of ponds versus nearly 11 acres on the AVEX plan. That additional pond acreage is critical for providing not only sufficient fill for the site, but is the absolute heart of a high-quality neighborhood design that limits the number of back-to-back units that are the hallmark of lower-quality neighborhoods. The key takeaway is we again listen to your desire for that higher quality neighborhood. And finally, this offer was based on the entire site, including the city land. We heard your desire for $1.75 million purchase price. We met that, and we also agreed to pay the broker fee on behalf of the city. If you as a DSD board are charged with selling to the highest bidder or selling only the DSD land, we're not the buyer for that land. We believe the timing of the new police fire complex will exceed the timing of our project. Additionally, if your desire is to sell only the DSD land independent from the city land, that will drastically reduce the value of the 4.9 acres purchased by the city in 2006 for $500,000. Equity and Gentry has heard you loud and clear over the past several years. A high-quality, true mixed community that St. Cloud can be proud of. We've been a part of this process every single time it's been presented. We're confident we can perform based on the proposal we've presented. We could have increased our purchase price, removed commercial space, and added additional single-family and multifamily density to try and justify that price. But that is not the high-quality community we want to put our name on, and it's not the high-quality community the city of St. Cloud deserves. Thank you.
Any questions from council? Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to the equity offer? You'll still have to share your name and address. You'll need to fill a form.
Hello, my name is Laurie Kimbrough. I live at 3271 Polly's Loop North, which back ends right to Stevens North. My husband and I really enjoy our country living and the quality of life that St. Cloud offers. And our concern is we're now looking at a big parcel of land that we can really use to build up the whole St. Cloud image. And I personally feel the last offer that was mentioned is what St. Cloud needs. We don't need a bunch more houses all crammed up and the traffic and everything. The parks, the water that they mentioned, the paths, that just sounds so, so much better than just packing in homes side by side and cramming them in. We don't need that anymore. And I really hope that you guys consider the future and use this land properly, that we can actually enjoy it. I mean, we're already going to be giving up all the animals and critters that roam around in our backyard because we're right up against it. So I really hope you guys consider just the quality of life down there. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the equity offer? If not, I'll open it up to discussion by council. I certainly have some concerns. I certainly want a public safety complex, but it really frustrates me that, that's the carrot that's being hung over us to make a decision here. What frustrates me about the AVEX offer is that they have reduced their price from their original price on the 7th by over $800,000. It also concerns me that they are proposing almost twice as many units on this property as equity is. If you add up all of the units, the 550 units, 400 multifamily units on 13 acres for the multifamily, that's 950 units. Equity has proposed 275 residential units, and they proposed 275 apartments on 15 acres. That's 555 units. What's also concerning to me is that on the 7th, AVEX was proposing 16 acres for the safety development property, which probably would have been adequate. But now the offer that we have before us now has cut back to 6 acres, which I do not believe is adequate to build the kinds of safety complex that we have already seen drawn up. I also like the fact significantly that the equity property has triple the commercial, which in my opinion is a huge factor as far as future income that would enable us to hopefully generate enough income to even help finance a safety complex and buy the product and buy the land. I personally am frustrated by the difference between these two offers, and I would certainly lean toward the equity property because I just feel like it would be a much nicer development for our community rather than jamming in almost 1,000 homes into that same piece of property. Anyone else on the council like to speak? Mr. Trace.
I'd have to echo some of your same comments. I mean, to me, it's mostly on the commercial side of 4 acres versus 11 acres. The public safety complex, I thought, we were buying 16 acres at one point, and then now it's, do you say 8 or 6?
6.
6. So that to me is the sticking point, and I think last meeting I kind of reiterated the similarities and differences between all the properties, and it comes down to the public safety complex. And if we end up selling this property, how much money goes back into the police or the public safety impact fee fund? Just ballpark, I forget. Because some of it was parks, some of it was public safety, right?
Most of it's parks.
Most
It
of
was
it's
mostly
parks.
Okay.
How much?
Okay. So it was only 500,000.
So about 25% of it's 25% is the police and fire, public safety. So
Okay.
25% of whatever the net sale.
Okay. Yeah, to me, it comes down to, is it the 6-acre public safety complex, or is it more commercial? That's, to me, what it boils down to. So, there's anyone else?
Any other discussion? Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you. I agree with most everything you guys have said so far. you know, Equity Investments has, like they said in their presentation, has been here since day one. And I feel like we've kind of been jerked around by other people. We keep trying other ways and methods. And, you know, for me, I feel like this is a local company. I feel like they're going to do a good job for the city of St. Cloud and have a project that we're all going to be proud of because this is their hometown too. The commercial was a big factor for me, and I know that there's been, and when I had my agenda review, there was some discussion about the price differential in the city land, but to me, that's so small potatoes compared to tax in the future. You know, I don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face over just a little bit of money on the front side. So me as well, I'm leaning towards equity.
Any other discussion?
Guess it's my turn.
Councilmember Askew.
I asked for commercial, you brought it to me, thank you for that. There's some bonuses there. I was really leaning, I didn't really have where I was going, I just really wanted commercial. I own a commercial place, I know what I put into the city, so I'm kind of leaning towards equity as well. So, and the part of this whole thing, I totally agree with the mayor, dangling the police over our head for that. I think everybody up here wants a new facility.
Yes.
I think when they squeeze it down to 6 acres, I think it would force our chief into building a skyscraper probably at that point, so I'm not sure. But I think before we vote on this, I think as a priority of this council up here, I think our citizens are speaking. They're letting us know that we need to make sure we're moving forward and looking at a police facility, and if it should be priority number one of finding the land and using that. We do have 50 acres by Nolte. We have some other places. They're not ideal for that, but we could be doing some land swapping and things like that. So, and I like our realtor, so maybe we can be working with him and see if we can find some another location. So I'm leaning more towards equity.
Thank you. Councilmember Cooper.
Might as well be the bad guy. I talked to the city manager, I talked to the city attorney. Looks like, to me, what I hear from them is, looks like AVEX is better to purchase that than it is the other one. I listened to all these citizens here, that we had the board come here, and how many meetings did you all have? Half a dozen of them? And your response was 100% that they wanted to keep the property. So I listened to the citizens, I listened to the city manager and the attorney, and that's where I'm coming from. And I just can't see to go the other direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I live in Stevens Plantation in Miranda Lakes. I just can't imagine jamming another 900 plus homes when that could be cut back and make that a much nicer community. I like all the park ideas, the trails, the things that they've gone the extra mile to propose. I think we're certainly committed to purchasing land. If we could purchase land on the amount of taxes that we'll be saving, if we just start setting that aside, you could purchase land and start building a facility. I certainly want us to build a facility, but I just don't think this is the best deal here for us. I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we grant equity the contract. Can I entertain a second?
Can I friendly amendment you?
Yes, you may.
And just remember, before you do that, there's two final steps. We haven't prepared a contract with either of these, so that will have to come back to you. So if you have terms, Ms. Matheny, that you think you want to see in the contract, you certainly can move forward with the motion, and we can talk about some of the terms, and then we can work those into a contract when it comes back to you.
Okay, well, I'll mention my terms. It's the same terms that I mentioned on the last meeting where it's about the road construction. In the summary that I received, it says that we would do impact fee credits for the full cost of the road construction. And we did discuss that at the last meeting, that we were going to cap that amount. So I want to have those terms into the final contract, if you're saying that's an amenable I guess, do we have consensus? Everybody wants to
Right.
move forward with that?
Both of the contracts that we talked about, both of the contracts have as part of the condition to close a negotiated and agreed upon development agreement related to the road. So the city council, when you sit as a city council, that you'll have to approve that agreement. And then we, with staff, will work, like we did with the Galleria project, we will negotiate and work with a cap on the mobility fee credits. like
But you
just-
have consensus from
Yes.
council that
Yes.
that will be in the agreement?
Yeah, you
Right,
have a consent.
but I just want to make sure you understand. It won't-
I understand.
It won't be in the contract agreement, it will be in the subsequent development.
I understand. I just don't want it to be misconstrued and then we're arguing about it on the backside. So I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
I apologize that I was late. Can I have just a moment to speak? We've invested quite a bit in this.
Sure. He's with AVEX.
Yes, I'll let you speak.
Thank you. First, it was 100% my mistake. I've been sitting in my car thinking we were having a 6 o'clock meeting, so I just apologize. One, I certainly understand the direction the board is going. I heard loud and clear at our last meeting that the number one priority was a quick and essentially unconditional closing, and I gave you that. There are no conditions to our obligation to close at this point. We gave you a 90-day inspection period. We have a price that's significantly higher than the next best offer. The commercial versus multifamily use, really, it's a mixed-use project, and unless you're getting a clear commitment from anybody standing here to say they're going to give you a certain square footage of commercial, I think you're reading more into it than what it is. I think the reality is it's going to be a commercial project, a mixed-use project driven by market demand. And when you show mixed use on a plan, you're showing mixed use. And as your planning department could tell you, that could be anything from residential to commercial to anything. So we've shown and we've committed, and I put a picture up for you, that we're going to do a true mixed-use building with retail on the ground and apartments over, fronting on the street. That's fully within the plan. We are unique in that all the bidders that I think you saw, other than a couple of the first builders, and that we are the builder for the residential. We are the builder, the developer for the commercial. There's very little of this that we're going to take in and put on the market and have to flip out and find somebody else to come in and do it. We are the principal for this. We invested, and we appreciate the opportunity, quite a bit of time and effort into this. And again, I feel like we put together an offer that's not even close. So I am here to answer questions, apologize for being late, but I really hate for a decision to be made based on a color on a map that says mixed use, unless you have a clear commitment to say we're going to have X square feet of commercial at the front end of this project. And I don't think either of us have given you that. I can commit to you that that will be a key component of our project, that we will do it. But unless you hear that, it seems to me what you have is a color on a map called mixed use that will be driven by market demand.
Thank you for your input. Any other input from the council?
Yes, sir. Mr. Sturgeon, could you give me a feel of what city manager and the city attorney, the discussions that you've had from, talk to both of them, money difference, where are you from, where you're at now?
Well, my recommendation would be to the board to go with the price, which would be AVEX Homes is a higher property price. That's my recommendation, just based on the price of the city
Strictly
property.
also because the price, we're gonna get the money coming back, the differential. You gotta be able, you gotta be palatable to show the citizens of St. Cloud that you're getting more money back, or taking this other one and getting less.
Well,
Pretty much, correct.
the one offer is we cover our cost. The property, what we paid for it, will come
Yes.
back to the city. The other one gives us a little bit of a increase in the price and the value.
And there's also,
So
BlackRock is gonna get more money too, also, right?
Yeah, the DSD value is higher, so that means there'll be more net proceeds left over to pay
Proceeds
the
for that,
bonds.
okay. And commercial that we're talking about, one versus the other, it's surmised what they're gonna do is what they're not truly, they can, either one of them can build larger or smaller in the same footprint, right? That where I'm coming from? In other words, they can go up 2 stories in a smaller area that one would have on AVEX and the other not. Could that be done? Maybe I'm asking you, and maybe
No, of course. I
should
mean, you
ask
can
them.
build a higher building in a smaller footprint. Absolutely.
Okay. So you could get more square footage on the, okay.
So, Mr. Cooper,
All right, thank you.
any other input from council? We have a motion before us, with a second.
Dave's.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Askew, I didn't see your, I like.
No one's made a decision up here yet. I mean, we're heading down a road here, but is there anyone out there who would be willing to give me a commitment of what type of commercial or the square footage? Because I see 60,000 to 125,000, which excites me, but I also see 60,000 on the other side. Is, in part of this motion, would any of the developers guarantee that those numbers would stick at 60,000 or 125,000 square feet? I know it's a hard question to ask, and I'm not even sure I can ask it. I'm sure Dan would have beat me up by now, but.
I think you were asking the same question I was, pretty
Right.
much. I went around the horn to get it, but
Because
you're
I
asking the same
understand,
thing.
I brought it up the last time, mixed use it's a slippery slope, because there's no guarantee for the
No, no.
city to have X amount. You could say it's there, but unless you hold their feet to the fire, as Lynette says all the time, Ms. Matheny says all the time, it's just colors on a picture and writing on a wall, so.
That's true.
Can I ask for a commitment of,
You can ask, I think you answered your own question, though. I'm
Right.
not sure they can do it.
so I'm just throwing it out there.
There are, again, jurisdictionally, the city of St. Cloud oversees the project, and there'll be other items that'll have to come back in front of the city council for approval, and there may be an opportunity to address it from the planning perspective at that point, to be more consistent with the numbers you see on this chart. More particularly, the conceptual plan has to come back. It's probably going to have to come back in front of you.
I guess I'm not asking the developers, I'm asking councils, that's something that they're looking for.
And to me, it's the acreage staying put, right? That's the only thing you can really control is
Right.
Right.
not letting that line shift
Yes.
over time, as often happens.
Councilmember Matheny.
So we've done this before. I mean, Mr. Askew is kind of doing the thing that I do, is like, when this contract gets written and they write these,
You never know.
whatever they do, they can put these commitments into the agreement. I mean, that's what we've done with other people. Like, they come and show us pretty pictures, and I'm like, put that in the, that's in this approval, so that they can't come later and change some of that. I mean, so could we just add the table into the contract documents?
Well, as Mr. Trace pointed out, I think we could identify the acreage and the breakdown in the exhibits as part of the contract, and so.
Yeah, you can definitely limit the number of units,
Right.
right? But the commercial is kind of a tough one. But the acreage can be in there.
So, where are we at then? Do you have a-
So could we get a,
You have a motion on the floor.
I know we got a motion.
Yeah.
could these two gentlemen come up
Yeah,
here and tell
I
us?
think Dave
or
asked a
not?
question, if anyone wants to answer.
I guess I'm the one that wants to know.
Well, I think everybody wants to know. Reed Berlinski, 4775 Canoe Creek Road. To answer, that's a hard question to answer. We're committed to the site plan that we gave you and the acreage we gave. We have a lot of interest in this project, as I'm sure Will AVEX does. I mean, once this project hit the news 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's been a lot of inquiries, and they're all over the board. It's anything from healthcare to multifamily to retail, to warehousing. So, I mean, there's a lot of interest. We're committed in our plan. We're perfectly happy for you to use that plan as an exhibit in our contract and commit to the acreage and the split. We'd like to stay away from exact square footage because we don't know. We're not certain. If you think about our balance, though, commercial, and look at the numbers, commercial's a big part of our balance. So it's going to be real important for us to get the right use and the right use and the right types in that community to make our project work. So we're very committed to the commercial side, and we're very committed to make sure that it's consistent with the mixed-use district. We look at it more as a community center, so it should have some activity to it. And we think it fits with the community and fits what we think you've been looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Councilmember Askew has a question.
So what about if there was some sort of commitment and you put down the acreage here and we kind of hold your feet to the fire there, and maybe we throw in a provision that if you don't build the commercial now, it's still set aside as commercial for the future. If you can't like build it at this second, that land is still going to be considered a commercial spot. Am I making any sense?
Well, I would assume we'd get an entitlement done. Are you saying that we give up our right for re-entitling it at a future date?
Well, you can't make them do that.
Yeah.
What you would have in that situation is that they certainly could come back at any time and ask whoever's sitting as a city council to basically revise their entitlements.
Right.
And like any property owner does at any time. You can't make them give up that right in the future.
Yeah, I guess at some point in time, there needs to be some sort of trust. I think that's what we continue to try to drive home that, as a local firm
Right.
committed to the community. You've heard Mike, say that we understand what you want. We apologize for not being capable of having a discussion about the public safety facility. And we're land developers. We're here to develop the land and do the best we can. If there was something solid that we could talk about from the public safety complex, there could be a discussion, but there has never been anything solid to discuss. So when we were asked to come back and make a proposal, it was for a land development proposal to take the property and to build a mixed use, and that was our proposal was based on, and that's what we gave you. So
Thank you.
that's what we'd like to do.
So you would be open to the discussion if you do win this, that you would be open to the possibility that we could put a police station or get into that talk?
If there's something that we can put our hands on and talk about, we certainly are up to discussion, but we've never really had anything other than we want something.
Okay.
And as, I guess I happen to wear both hats here, as a neighbor, I've been listening to this for a long time, and I'd love nothing better than to see it happen. And I think, but I'd like to, I've been involved in a lot of P3 agreements, and there needs to be some bases, and for right now, our offer is to do what we believe was asked by the city and discussed by the council about what they want to do with the property.
Okay.
So you're not firm believer of if you could stand up and say, yes, I'm going to have discussions with, and you would come into discussions with police and fire having a facility. You're just, you're not going to iron it in tonight and say you would.
I'm in the real estate business.
That's not what I'm asking. You and I asking, I'm asking one thing and you're going the other way.
Well, no.
We're going backwards and forwards here.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm in the real estate business. If I buy a piece of property, then I look at develop piece of property the best, and
I understand that, yes.
Making a living at it. So I'm actually responding to what I thought the council wanted to do, and that was build a mixed-use community. And so, if that answers your questions, that's what I was trying to do.
Any other question?
No.
Thank you, sir.
So let me address a different issue first and then come back to that one. We put a 6-acre site in as an option in our plan for the safety building, largely just to show our commitment that it's something that we're willing to work with in our plan. And I spoke today to a representative from the police department and told him we're pretty flexible in that regard. That was why our offer said that we don't necessarily have to buy the city property. We could buy some or all of it and leave you some portion of it. We put together one plan because a piece of paper is a static option. It's all you can do on a piece of plan, but we're pretty flexible in that regard. Now, to the other question, which is really, I'll ask it on your behalf in a different way, and this is a somewhat dangerous thing for me to do, but being the only one up here who's really going to be the one building this, the low-hanging fruit here is the residential, right? I mean, we all know that we can get National Home Builders, my own company, in here building the single-family residential tomorrow. So how do you tie the residential to the commercial? That's really your question. And I'd be willing in our negotiations to make some commitment that some portion of our residential would be tied to meeting some portion of the commercial requirement.
So your size of the commercial would go according?
Well, I think there's clearly a market for some of the commercial. And I would be willing, and I can't stand here and say exactly what that is, but it's a material amount. I would be willing to say that there's some portion of the residential that we cannot build until some of that commercial is complete. Because we feel like the commercial is a viable option here. And I'm not just trying to put something on paper, and hoodwink you to come do residential or something else later. And I don't think they are either. I honestly think that but in both of us, you have good options. I genuinely feel that way. But I am willing and able to make that commitment and to incorporate that as part of the contract.
Which commitment is for 60,000, but you wouldn't go any higher than that?
Well, I don't, and it depends on how much of the residential was put there. So I think at the beginning, there's clearly some amount of commercial that's going to come there. I don't know, standing here today, I'm not saying it's 10,000, but maybe it's the first 20,000 of commercial and maybe the last 20% of the residential being tied. But again, I think you're trying to find a way to use that residential as a means to ensure that the commercial gets done.
You're just not going to step up to the plate and give me 60 or 120 or 80? Or,
no.
You're not making a number.
Well, I mean, it's a really tough number. It would be, again, it wasn't planned walking in here. It'd be a material amount. And if you weren't happy with me during those negotiations, turn over and go, work with equity. But I'm here to commit to you that we'll do the commercial.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other discussion from council? We have a motion before us with a second. We go with equity. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Member Cooper?
Nay.
Member Askew?
Aye.
Member Trace?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Right. So we will hopefully have on your next DSD meeting, which is December 5th, a contract for you to approve. Just remember the city piece that we've talked about will have to be in front of the city council. It's anticipated we'll have that at the December 12th council meeting.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate the input of all of you. Thank you so much. With that, we are adjourned.